What's going on, y'all? I want to talk about financial literacy, and I think five fundamental things that are important. And I just wanted to have this unedited video. I have a few things written down just so I can stay on task as I go through this video. But who am I? I'm Nate Webster. I went to FIU and had a financial bachelor's degree. So finance is something that I'm very interested into. And what really got me into it is actually having to have a background of homelessness, and that's what made me very passionate about financial literacy. And not in the sense of homelessness on the streets and that type of thing, but just house jumping, couch jumping, sleeping in the car. Um, Even though both of my parents made, nice lump sums of money, things in life did happen. And it's just things that I want to be able to help push to other people to know what to do with their money to, just somehow prevent these things from happening. I also ended up trying to have a business, stepping out of the financial field. I stepped out of corporate finance. I used to work as a regulator with FINRA. And, you know, some of those questions I think to myself, do I regret it? I have some regrets. Just some mistakes that I made financially. So it's me just opening up to you guys. And one of the fundamental steps is budgeting without burnout. And I think that's something very key that I did not take into consideration when I moved to Cincinnati from Florida. Just having a business with my brothers, it made me jump into it. And, I just kind of heard their gross numbers, even though, I was a finance major and we talked about net profit. That just totally went out the window once I was with my brothers and my family, my dad. Um, and once I jumped in, a lot of bad things started to happen just with the business model of trucking. Jumped in as a hotshot trucker, made a lot of fundamental errors. And I thank God for just certain people that came into my life to steer me and basically just dump it as soon as possible. Like you hear people say, fail fast. Just test things out because a lot of people don't want to test things out and they get stuck. But one of the biggest things I want to push to you guys is understanding budgeting. I didn't understand the true essence of budgeting for a business. I understood personal budgeting. I was very great at budgeting my own money. I had a strict budget on how much money I would spend towards my car, towards just going out to eat. And that was a simple, what it was, 30, 30, 20, 20. 30 towards the house, 30 towards investing, 20 towards your car, 20 towards yourself, right? And if you're able to just do that, life is so easy if you're strict on that. Not putting money in savings just so you could go ahead and touch again in the future. You want to keep that money basically there until it's another investment opportunity that presents itself to you. Even if it's 5 years from now, you should be putting money to the side, maybe a high yield saving, right? But if you don't understand how to budget, which is the fundamental key of building wealth, and I promise you, I want you guys to do your own research. Do your own research on why a lot of people are poor. Do your own research on why a lot of people are financially struggling in life. And one of those main reasons is not knowing how to budget. And budgeting is something that's new to a lot of people when they just get a check and they spend it and they look forward to the next check coming in to replenish what they just spent this week. And that's the trap that a lot of people get into. And I want to basically help you guys not fall into that trap. It is a trap. Look at why a lot of people are financially struggling in life. And you could be able to see these data research points that will lead you into the right direction. Um, and it's like once I became into that trucking business, which ended up leading me to go into bankruptcy, it kind of put something into me that wanted to just voice things out. Even if I don't even get a lot of views, I just wanted to be able to voice things out to people because I know it may help later down the future for anybody that's going through any of these struggling things and struggling times. And just do your research and don't only look at the pros. That's what me and my brothers messed up on. When I came to them, I only heard the pros. I also got messed up with a real estate deal with somebody that was close, and they ended up screwing me over. And it's and the reason why I say screwing over, maybe that wasn't their intentions, but when you only lead with positive, you lead that person who's giving you their money to only go with the positives. And that's what led a lot of financial heartache to me, my siblings, and just anybody else that's out there in a lot of situations, whether you get scammed, whether you get played, whether you just jump into a business not understanding the risk, and you jump in not knowing the risk because you only looked at the good side, right? Everybody wants to be an NFL player. Hell, my dad was one. But a lot of people don't talk about the life, the things that's after your career, the injuries, the things that stick with you all the way until the end, the way that you're really taking lives, years off your life, right? But people only want to talk about the good. Oh, you make a lot of money, right? You get a lot of notoriety. You're able to have a lot of access. But a lot of people aren't talking about the big crucial things that you got to really see. Do you want that? Do you want injuries all your life where you always got to wake up in pain? I know a family member that messed up his spine and he has neck pain constantly in his 40s. And that's the type of questions you have to want to ask yourself about anything that goes into business, any investment, right? Just always weigh the pros and the cons. And don't let people just fill your head up with good stuff. Ask them. If you're jumping into anything, if you're working at a company, if you're working at a job, restaurant, whatever, ask them what are the cons? Like, what are the biggest headaches here as well? You know, like, what are the biggest frustrations? Because you don't just want to go in there thinking it's the best thing in the world when it's really not. And I want to be able to help steer you guys from doing the same mistakes that I've done. Working at FINRA was amazing, right? The only thing that I hated was that you was restricted on social media when I feel like I want to be able to pour back as a financial advocate, which I could have stayed a little bit longer because by now I think I would have had enough money to be able to branch off to another company that wouldn't have had that many restrictions. But again, my mistakes, I'm vocalizing so you guys don't go through the same mistakes. Now, another point that I have written down is the power of saving and emergency funds. The reason why saving and emergency funds are so important is because it can literally save your life, or you never know what's to come in the future, right? Let's say, God forbid, a family member is in a hospital and you don't have any money because you live in day to day, paycheck to paycheck, right? How are you going to be able to go see that family member? You're going to have to risk everything in the world just to go see that family member. And now you're going to come back in a terrible position, right? Even though that's a terrible situation in itself, right? So having that emergency fund is always something good that you should always think about having. And if you look and do your research, a lot of people, advocate for 6 months of living expenses saved up for your emergency funds. Basically saying you got 6 months of figuring out what the hell if you ever go into a bad situation in life, right? 6 months to figure out how to get some money and being able to just stay afloat in that meantime. And that's not discounting if you have a job with steady income coming in, right? But you never know. You never know. You might be in a state where hurricanes are. You might be in a state where tornadoes, earthquakes, right? You might have not gotten the insurance you needed on the house. So that emergency fund could save your life for real. And a lot of people neglect this. I remember reading something that the average citizen in the US doesn't even have $1,000 saved. That is very concerning. That is very concerning. It didn't say from 18 to 21. It said the average US American citizen doesn't even have $1,000. And at the end of the day, you can only point at yourself. A lot of people like to blame the world. A lot of people like to blame the economy. If you got money and you going out there buying clothes and shopping and buying food and doing all this luxurious lifestyle, going on trips, don't come and complain and say the government isn't right, the government don't do you well. You got to be able to put your years in investing, let that money compound, as all great investors talk about. It doesn't happen overnight. Yeah, you have some exceptions of people that does make a lot of money overnight. But how are you the exception? Why would you put yourself in the exception? Definitely if you're not doing the things that the exceptional person did. So let's just play the game as the average numbers. That's the most likable outcome. And that is learning how to save. That is learning how to be disciplined. That is learning how to say no, even when it's the biggest thing that you may feel that came that year. It's always going to be another year, right? If God gives it to you. Oh, it's a birthday. It's always going to be somebody's birthday. It's always going to be a friend's birthday. It's always going to be a sibling's birthday, right? You got all these holidays. So it's like, when are you going to be able to put your foot down and stop letting the world control the way that you spend? When are you going to be able to put your foot down and take control of your own life and take control of your own spending? It may look little at the first year. It may look little at the second year. But hell, man, when I worked at FINRA for maybe a year and a half, I was making $70,000. I was able to save up over $35,000. And that was because I had the discipline. It was because I was able to say no to people saying they want to go out of the town, out of the country, going out to party, going out to clubs, buying sections, going out to eat all the time. I was able to say no. I was able to say no. And unfortunately, me jumping into this business and that real estate investment, all of that just went to the trash, right? I'm just being blunt with you guys. I don't want to seem like I'm this know-it-all and all this success is on me at this moment. No, but I say this to tell you guys to not make the same mistake I did. Don't do business with family or friends. That is a big thing that I always heard, and I still went against it. And I wonder why. I still haven't did the research on it, but it's like they feel, in my opinion, they feel like they can play with the time that they pay you back, right? It's like, oh, we family. Oh, just understand, give me a couple more months, couple more years. But if it's a bank, they wouldn't play with the bank like that. The bank is saying, hey, if you don't pay me back, we're taking that home. And that's the same urgency I would want that person to have with me. And it's not like I'm just giving money that's just so easily to obtain, right? No, I went through some ish for the last 2 years based on this, mistake, this big mistake. But I say this to urge you guys to not make the same mistake. And the importance of saving, man. The hardest part is you start saving so much money, in a sense. Let's say, for example, when I first hit, I think $8,000, right? And I remember I didn't know the importance of not telling everybody or letting the right hand know what the left hand is doing, right? As soon as I started telling family members about how much money I was making or how much money I was able to save, now everybody needs $1. Now everybody asking for $100, and it used to just be $5. Now it jumped up to $100, even jumped up to thousands in some cases, right? I think the most I probably been asked was like $3,000. But my thing was, I was probably 22 years old, getting asked for $3,000 from people that's older than me, right? And I don't mean to shame the people who were asking. I don't. What I'm saying is, it's so hard to say no, and you have to be able to flex that no muscle, right? It may be your brother, it may be your sister, it may be your mom, it may be your dad, it may be a cousin, it may be an auntie, uncle, it might have been your best friend that you grew up with, right? You have to be able to say no, because in order for you to take care of somebody, you have to be able to take care of yourself first. And $8,000 in the grand scheme of things is nothing. It is nothing. Even when I had 35,000 in my brain, I kept saying like, this is nothing. My goal was to get to 50,000. And that kind of made me push into that real estate deal faster because I wanted the money and microwave results. I wanted that money to happen so fast, and I messed up. I messed up. Just being blunt and honest, right? So I say that to tell y'all not to do the same mistake, not to do the same mess up, right? Don't let people make you feel bad into giving money. Please don't. You worked for it. You worked hard for what you earned. You shouldn't have to just give it away for people to just blow it. I remember asking one of my friends. He said, I need $20 or $50. And I was like, hey, if you don't mind, I want to know what you're using my money for. Oh, just to order some food and the Uber somewhere. With my money. With my money. When I grew up eating, not all my years, and I haven't been broke all my life, right? I don't want to portray that. But I done had a period of time where I was eating McDonald's, Subway, and noodles. My auntie cooked probably twice a week. So we had 2 cooked meals. I'd say maybe 3 times. I give it a benefit of the doubt. But 3 times out of the week we had a cooked meal. And that was for dinner. But other than that, majority of the times, of course we had other sub on the run. I remember Subs on the run, Wingstop. Of course you eat these other places. But what I'm saying is majority of the days was Subway, McDonald's, and I can't remember what the other one was. Those 2 are the main ones. I remember Snappers, in Miami. But it's like somebody wants you to give their hard-earned money to not have to struggle, right? To not have to eat them noodles, to not have to eat them McDonald's and Subway, right? But you went through it. And you decided it wasn't going to break you. It was going to make you into a better person. I store all of them days with me that made me a way better person, that made me really want to push to do better in life. And I really want all people to do better in life. I want y'all to do better in life, right? It's like you can get so caught up and giving. And then you pick your head up and you see no money. You hear NBA, NFL players, let's say all professional athletes, right? You hear these people talk about taking care of their family. Not every single person, of course you have exceptions, but you hear a lot of them talk about people going behind their back or taking a little money, or they was giving so much and when they deal got cut, it was no money left, right? So that's why you hear me say this saving. Be able to flex that no muscle. Now let me get to the third topic that I have written down. Life stage specific topics. For teens, earn their first paycheck. You got to understand how you spend that money, right? You got different, as you grow older, your money is diversified in different ways, right? As a teenager, you may only have money to spend on school lunch. You know what I mean? Maybe a car, right? So you have different expectations. As you become an adult, now you have a house, you have a car, you have food, you may have a kid, right? You got to take care of all these different people. And not saying it's solely on the one person, but your money is going into a factor of helping, right? So it's like, now you have to know how to divvy your money properly to be able to take care and satisfy all these different needs, right? Because if you have a kid, you can't let the kid go hungry, right? Like that's going to be a big problem. Now you're going to have to get on Section 8, right? But you got to understand, finance is not so hard. It's not. It's really just a new language. It's it's a foreign language to a lot of people. And I think that's the issue. It's not like it's something that's so impossible. Because a lot of people that I knew from the streets, I was able to talk to them in a street fashion and be able to break down finances to them. Uh, and a lot of the times, it's these big words that make people just cringe or make them intimidated, right? Like compound interest, investing in stocks, right? I know the word doesn't seem big, but the definition of people seem big, right? Jumping into real estate. Real estate is not big, but all the complexities of it is very big and very detrimental if you don't know what you're doing when you jump into it, right? So the biggest thing is learning what you need to know as you go older and what to expect from banks, from people, from friends. And I'm only 26, so I know it's way much more life I have to go through to really learn. But um, I think a big thing is a lot of people get that midlife crisis, right? Which I don't even think is midlife. I really want to say it's like the beginning of your life, right? Because it's that first time you really jump out into the world where bills is all on you, right? It's like, oh, I didn't know this many bills was going through, right? Like I thought it was just maybe three little separate bills: a phone, house, and a car. Like that's all I thought the bills was. And then you start seeing insurance, then you start seeing taxes, right? And then you're like, oh, if you don't pay your taxes, you going to jail, right? Because you withholding taxes. So you start hearing all these different things, and you're like, oh my gosh. And you go into this cycle. What's a 401k? Oh, I should put money into a 401k, but if I put money in a 401k, doesn't that mean my check is smaller? Wait, is this right? Are they stealing from me, or is this actually something that's going to help me? What's a Roth IRA, right? Like, I don't understand. You saying I can't touch this money until 60? How I know it's really going to be there at 60? Then you hear in the news and they talking about people, pension plans is at risk. So it's all these different thoughts going through people's heads. And it's really just that they don't understand the definition of finance, right? Financial literacy. And to break it down super simple is just that percentage. I promise you, if you can at least just understand how to budget, read a book on budgeting, watch a few videos on YouTube about budgeting, maybe 10 videos, right? Like you have to invest in yourself if you want things to change, right? I done read books. I done watched plenty of videos on credit, saving, what's the biggest reasons that rich people are rich and poor people are poor, what's the mindset these people have, right? So those are a lot of things you want to take into consideration. Now, what else? Trying to see if I had anything else. Oh, investing basics, right? And compound growth. Understand stocks. Stocks is super simple if you follow what the majority of people do. And they literally have blueprints, right? You might have heard the S&P. You might not understand what it is, but you might have heard the S&P. And the S&P is a conglomerate of the top 500 companies in the U.S. that's publicly traded. And the S&P itself, it just constantly rotates companies in and out. If it was top 5 and it dropped to 50, let's say 506, right? It'll get dropped out and then put back in. I think it might be 502 and they just call it the S&P 500. But the reason why I say this is a lot of people get super intimidated on investing. And 90% of investors, including professionals, underperform the S&P in a 10-year time frame. That's 90%. Now, this is what I always tell people. If you don't understand nothing about stocks, what makes you different from the 90% of people, including these professionals, right? So it's like, once I started to know that, okay, let me do my research on the people who have beat the S&P. And a lot of people don't even think that far or think to do those type of things, right? It's if you want to go to the NFL, understand what this player did to make it to the NFL. And that's the same approach that I took when I came into finance. What are the top financial people doing with their money, and why are they outperforming the S&P, and why are they so rich, and why are they so good at selecting different companies, right? And the main thing was index investing. That's what you'll hear constantly. If you're new, definitely if you're new, index investing. You invest into an ETF, which has certain sectors, which it could be semiconductors, which is popular right now. You can have AI, which is popular right now, right? You can have the healthcare, which is also popular, right? I think all these things are popular. Technology, but you can invest in different sectors and just look up Vanguard or BlackRock, right? Those are usually the top two big dogs in the whole stock market. So I usually just look up a Vanguard ETF and I put whatever sector or industry I really want to invest in, right? And then once you start to understand what makes stocks go up and what makes stocks go down, these cycles is cycles. It's nothing super easy. It is nothing super easy about this point. The easy point is putting in the S&P month after month and just letting it work. You just let that money work, right? You got different ETFs, but do your research. And the selective companies, when you select a company, you really have to do your research, because even though they might be the biggest stock in the world, doesn't mean it can never come down. Blockbuster was super big, came down, right? Nvidia wasn't always the top 10. Just in 2020, it wasn't top 10. I remember it wasn't top 10, but now it's number one. Apple and Microsoft was holding that spot for years. And now you got Nvidia that passed it, right? You had even Zoom coming up. I don't know if Zoom was ever top 10. And then you had the FANG stocks. I remember the FANG stocks. But the big thing that I'm trying to say is Netflix. I think Netflix was one of them. Netflix. Not Zoom, my bad. Netflix was one of them. Netflix dropped so much. And the reason I say that is because you might have invested your whole life saving into one company thinking it's going to boom for the rest of your life. And you just gambled and risked your whole future away. So I say that to say, with so much urgency, to make sure you do your own research whenever you decide to invest in individual companies, right? And the biggest terminology you want to know is value investing, right? Which is fundamental investing. Then after that, you can mix it in with technical analysis, which technical is just learning how to read the charts of the stock market. So I say that to say I really want you guys to understand investing, because compounding interest is something like no other. It is something like no other. Do your own research. And the simple way I can explain it is like this. Imagine your money flipped, right? 100%. And on average, if you do the S&P, that's like every 7 years, right? But let's say your money go from 1,000 to 2,000. Now, that same time it took from 1,000 to 2,000 is now what it's going to take from 2,000 to 4,000. Your money not going to 2 to 3, it's going 2 to 4 now, right? Then that same amount of time, if you're leaving that money in there, it goes from 4 to 8. Again, you leave that money in there, it goes to 8 to 16. And that's the reason compound interest is so big. And you'll constantly hear people talking about it like they should compound, they should invest early to let the money compound. And those are big key skills to have in life. I promise you. Because if you don't, you're going to be 60 years old with nothing to look forward to in the bank. Right? And you don't even have to wait all the way to 60, because you may have a great paying job that's paying you, let's say, $100,000, and you're very strict on putting $30,000 away. And when you put that $30,000 away, you just got to imagine that $130,000. Remember, you're working at this job for years, but let's just say that $130,000. In 7 years, that $130,000 should turn into $60,000. That's just $130,000 that you put to the side. And then you have to imagine multiplying that, because you're working there for years. So if you got $100,000 in 7 years, now that's $200,000. So that's the biggest thing about compound interest, and you hear a lot of people swear by it. Let me see if I got another one. I think that's enough for today. But just wanted to get that off my chest. a lot of things I just want to be able to tell y'all to save y'all from heartache, a lot of pain, financial pain, and that financial pain bleeds into your life, right? It's that's one of the things a lot of people don't think about when you think about finances. It can bleed into your relationships, not just with your spouse, with your brothers, your sister, your mom, your dad, because not everything is like ticking you off. You know what I mean? It's like you're not where you want to be in life, and you had this whole projection and you were on track, and then it just all got torn away, right? um but if you're not a believer, I encourage you to believe in God, right? As he can bring the better path for you. So that's why I still have hope, even though I'm going through this turmoil, even though I done been through a bankruptcy, which is not the proudest moment, right? But it's like you just, what is life with no hope? You know, like you got to be able to hope for something better in the future. You know, so it's like, and then when you read the word, it basically tells you like things that happen in life is just lessons, you know. So I still got training to do on my mind, you know, because I still feel the financial hardships in the moment. But the biggest thing that my dad done taught me is responding in the moment, right? And the biggest thing my mom done told me is basically it's gonna come back. You don't know when, you know what I mean? But stand faithful. In other words, it shall all come back and be restored. As long as you keep that faith, you know, because a lot of people lose their mind. Definitely with financial hardships. Think about 2008 when the crash happened. I was only 8, 9 years old, so I really don't know what happened like from my own perspective. But I remember just reading up on it from classes and just seeing my own due diligence on doing certain research. A lot of people was killing themselves. A lot of people was having suicide days, you know, even attempts. Like, and even like 2020, the same, you know. And it's sad, it is very sad, and that's why I want you guys to take control. Like, don't let that financial heartache bury you, you know. Like, there is more life, there is more hope, even if things are still going bad, right? Like, that's how I treat every day of my life. If something goes bad today, I know God got me. It may be 2 years, maybe 3 years from now, but that's the way I look at it. And that's the way you have to really train yourself, because if not, you kind of just crumble, you know? So, uh, just having that mindset, being strong on it, and understanding there's more life. Even when I had the bankruptcy, I thought life was over. I'm a big believer, but at times I still get, weak. I'm not gonna act like every single day is the strongest for me. But that's when I get down in my corner. That's when I journal. That's when I pray the hardest. Just like stay with me and show me what's going on, why, and that taught me business lessons. That taught me a lot of business lessons, even though it was the worst thing to go through for me. And I just feel like I'm able to pass that along, you know. Uh, and life isn't over. You're still able to get a home. It take 2 years, right, for the FHA after bankruptcy, which slows things down as being 26, right? But you'll hear other people, the average person is over 30 and staying with their parents, right? So when you're able to put yourself in the realistic things of the world, you aren't swayed by just little things that people try to shame you on. You know, you may get people trying to shame you for being out of college and living with your parents. You may have people trying to shame you for starting a business and it didn't work out. Do your research on Elon Musk. Like, do your research on Jeff Bezos. Like, These people just didn't get it from one attempt. These people had struggles. These people really went through things, and still made it. And that should be the faith of a mustard seed for y'all to keep going. You know, life is definitely not easy. And what sucks is every decision you make, good or bad, um, it really carries and affects the next day. And it could affect your whole life. You know, something that you may have seen is very small and minute could be very big on the grand scheme. Think about going to a bank. You're the lockup dude, and you don't think about putting an alarm on. And now the bank get broken into and no alarm goes off. Now the bank lost all the money, right? It was something very small to you. Oh, I forgot to put the alarm on. And now you lost your job, But yeah, I just want to encourage you guys to keep going. Don't lose faith. Even when the waves are big and strong, just keep pushing. Um, my journey hasn't been easy. Uh, and I look to really, really create an impact just from my story in the future. Um, I've been blessed with family, friends that have helped me, guided me, pushed me. Uh, you know, Even Rico. Rico helped me in the trucking game and helped me get out. And was like, he told me other options I had. Um, but he the one that kept it real with me. He the one that kept it a buck. But you have these people, DJ, big mentor, inspired so much in me, just on how to look at life. When I broke my leg playing football, I thought nothing of life, like I thought it was only football, the streets, and he took me on a drive in Biscayne, and was showing me these big buildings. And he was like, like none of them that own these buildings play sports. I'm like, for real? And I feel like the lesson he really was trying to give me was like, just because football over don't mean life over. Just because football didn't work out doesn't mean you can't make a life for yourself. But a lot of people, definitely in the inner city, all they see is football, football, football. But DJ was able to help me get out of that mindset. Um, and the streets itself is so sad. It's so much that can go wrong because you just don't know. And we got a term down there called green, right? You green. And it's basically just like you don't know no better. You a duck. You new to this environment. And my Uncle Vic uh, basically helped me really navigate in the city, understanding how to not get duped. Because I got duped, um, you know. And it sucks. I hate the people that get duped, man. I hate if you got scammed, man. I hate that for you. I was one of them, man. And it's like, I know a lot of y'all are just good people. A lot of y'all didn't have no ill intent. Somebody just took advantage of y'all. And yeah. But I thank God for them people, man. I thank God for them people. It's a lot of us. It's a lot of us. But those two really did things they didn't have to, in a sense of taking me under their wing. I had aunties and uncles that also did the same. But they weren't blood and took me in. In fact, it contributed so much more than my uncles, my blood uncles and blood aunties. Like, I just want to be able to put that out there, just to record this. So they know. They know how thankful I am, how appreciative I am. And they steered me on the right path. I had coaches. Well, really only Drummond, Pasha, Vic, more than a lot of other coaches for real, but it's just good people out there, man. Just keep going. And I pray that, whatever hard time is going on in your life, I pray somehow somebody able to just bless you and shed light on the proper path, you know. Um, it's a shame, man. It's a shame. Definitely when you get old and you start looking at those mess ups, right? And I'm still young. I'm thankfully I ain't got no kids right now, so it's like these mess ups aren't big, but you hear people constantly say like you can afford to take losses when you're early, but when you're older, you really can't. And that's when you see the sad part of people taking their life. They had people who was depending on them, and I hate that. I hate that, man. But life is hard. Life is hard. Life is not easy. If it was easy, everybody would have been made it and flexing, Lamborghinis and mansions. But I done went over. My bad. Love y'all. And I hope the best for y'all in the future. And keep going. Just keep going. Don't give up. The people that made it stayed consistent, dedicated, and had a big reason, a bigger reason than themselves.